take a second, and there you two are. All right.
Yay.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and another. All right. I see Julie, Ron, Juanjo, Ola. Yes. Where are you from? Obviously, where are we getting Ola from? Is that you're not Southern California where I'm at, where we say that all the time, but I assume that you're someplace. But anyway, it is.
No, that says whole. It's just the back half of a word. Yeah.
He's so international, cosmopolitan, and he lives in New York, where there are no people outside of New York. You know, they all grew up there. They're very insular.
New York, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like LA. Well, anyway, by the way, welcome. Thank you for showing up here. And obviously, more people will be joining up. Yeah, wrong class. More people will be joining us as we go. We have a great guest. Iris is here with us, and we'll introduce her in just a second. So thanks for joining us today. Johnny and I are happy to be here. And Mr. Heller, I'm going to give you the honor. Can you do me a favor and introduce Iris, since you've known her? We met, by the way, Iris and I met at the Heller New England Narrators Retreat. See, luckily I don't speak
Say
for a
that
living.
5 times fast.
Yeah, and that's probably a really great tongue twister too. Not only could I not, it's a good memory exercise, and obviously I failed that. So we met there. We talked a little bit, but you know her much better than I do. So go ahead and let everybody know in our audience who our guest is, and while I've talked to her, you've done even more. Johnny Heller.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Iris McElroy from Penguin Random House. I've known Iris for, oh my God, a long time. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you were one of my very first ever engineers. Weren't you at some, didn't you work didn't we meet at a studio first?
Yeah, I was originally an engineer at John Marshall Media. So I've
Yeah.
probably known you about as long as I've been working this whole career, which has been about 12 years or so.
Yeah. For a while, Iris was worked in one of a talent agency I was represented by for a while.
Yeah, we've always kind of followed each other.
Yeah, we keep, and so and she is absolutely, you can't tell by your angry look there, but she's a delight. She's just wonderfully refreshing and pleasant, and I really treasure her friendship. She's a we talked, Don and I have talked a number of times about this, and you'll see in this Ask Us Anything session, I hope, when you see someone, and here's Don, who's a brilliant tech engineer and stuff, and a studio guy, and you see me, I'm a narrator, but you see a publisher, a producer, someone who can cast you, and all of a sudden, you just freak out a little bit. And I want you to know that it's okay to freak out a little bit, but Iris is not only a regular person, she's a great person. And you guys, everybody needs to begin to understand that these people are just like us. They put on their pants one arm at a time, same as us. So so you've got to start treating them like, with respect, but also if you put people on pedestals, which happens too often in this game, it's impossible to breach that gap that you yourself set up. Do you think that's true, Iris?
I guess because I don't know. I am just a person, but it's interesting that you brought up the whole pedestal thing, because I actually feel very uncomfortable when people are like, "Oh, but you're Iris, and you're at Penguin Random House," and I'm like, "Yeah," and I have a very fun job that I enjoy a lot. Like, that's what it is, and I like to do a good job at my job, and that means by extension I expect the people that I hire to bring their best and do a good job. But at the end of the day, the pedestal thing makes me very uncomfortable.
Yeah. Now, Don appreciates being on a pedestal, but he's about the only guy I know. King Don the First.
Some people have asked me to put on a mask, but I've been put on a pedestal instead. Iris, one of the things I would ask, when you got started getting into Penguin Random House, I'm going to call it Penguin instead of, I'm not going to give it the full title from now on.
Say PRH.
PRH, okay. See, now you're going to teach me the jargon. So how did you get started with this business, and have you been doing audio your whole life? I mean, you look too young to me to be at a major publisher, but tell us how you got started in this.
Well, I started like I think this is happening quite frequently now, but I moved to New York as an audio engineer. I went to school. My background is in music production and recording, and I found a way in and a job, in New York City working as an audio engineer, and I didn't have to, work at a coffee shop, which I also did, and that didn't work out. But um, but I found really quickly that I just really loved the environment. I loved working with actors. I love the way actors are and what they bring to the table. I think there's like an openness to actors that I really appreciate. Yeah, so, and I just kept going forward in that way. I worked at the SAG-AFTRA Foundation, as James Romick mentioned. Hi, James. In their VO lab, as a coach and director. And I thought that I just loved working with actors so much that I thought, okay, well, I'm going to go be a talent agent. And I worked at Abrams for a while and realized, okay, that is not my vibe. That is not what I want to do. And then luckily enough, Harper asked me to apply a couple years ago, 5-6 years ago. Harper Audio originally asked me to apply to be a producer. And I was there for a few years, and I really kind of cut my teeth on the producing side. And then, PRH came over, or the opportunity at PRH came up to produce in 2021. So I've been here for a couple years now, and it's been a wonderful experience. It's great to see all the different sides of everything. So.
Are you guys going back? Are you back in the office semi-regularly at least?
Yeah. Thursday's like our day to kind of go in, but I usually go in when I have an author or somebody in session, because our studios are fully functioning now.
Yeah, well, so. I'm there next week.
Oh, great. So maybe, cool. I'll come in and bother you.
Excellent. I'm there with Paul Rubin. Yeah, you can bother us.
Great.
Give me a break.
You won't get anything done. We'll get nothing done. That's kind of the funny thing about going into the office, though. It's so great to go in and see everybody and these people who, we work closely together, but we don't spend a lot of physical time together. And it's so different than, communicating over Zoom or Teams and in person. So we actually don't get a lot of work done when we go into the office now, because we're all just like chit-chatting and, cutting up, and it's fun though. I think that's important.
There's a movement afoot I know in New York City specifically, I don't know about other cities, since the COVID is kind of lifted, that they want people to come back to the office.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are beginning to, I looked out today. I was, because, we had such rain all week and stuff. It's the town is just teeming. It's filled with human beings right now. It's just exploded. I don't know where they go when it rains.
Yeah. They all go underground. The mole people, Johnny.
So I want to. So it's kind of interesting. So you started off doing engineering, and then you moved to a role. Now, would your title today be acquisitions? Or are you still engineering and producing? Do you?
No, my official role is a producer. So okay. My job entails casting, working with the author on the audiobook plan, casting, coordinating, putting out fires, just kind of, and directing, which I really enjoy. Excuse my dogs barking in the background.
Yeah, you should not have animals. That's terrible. What a loser of a person you must be. from somebody who has 5 cats and a 80-pound dog. Yeah, so I relate. So, all right. So Don wants to become a narrator, which nobody's asked me to be at any time soon. So how do I get on your radar? Or what's the best? Let me ask it the other way first, though, because I always find this question almost as interesting. What's the best thing I can do to have you go, nope, never working with this guy?
Oh, man, this feels like a loaded question. You said there was no gotcha journalism.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm just kidding. I think a thing that would make me hesitant to hire someone, I think more than anything, especially with PRH, we utilize Ahab so much, our casting platform. Um, and I found this when I was at the talent agency too. Like, specs are really important, and to read those specs and to really follow the instructions, and to not only read it, to not only help you with your audition, but also to help you say, you know what, this might not be for me. So the thing that will really make me go, ooh, I don't know if I ever want to hire this person, is when they have so clearly ignored specs and still auditioned. And I'm not saying like, you know, you have to fully match it. Like if you were in the ballpark. I mean, to give you an example, was trying to cast for a graphic novel an 11-year-old boy whose ancestry is Asian. And, you know, it's for a graphic novel. It's very fun, but like, you know, it's still based in reality. So we were looking for younger sounding men with Asian ancestry background, cultural background. And I got an audition from somebody who was not, who was 50 plus and didn't have that background, was
It was James
definitely
Rodick,
like
wasn't
Caucasian.
You didn't recognize me?
Well, Don, maybe.
I thought it would work. Why? Now, yeah.
Well, no, but it wasn't just that. Also the reading of it was just very. It sounded like a cartoon or a caricature, and but it made me a little grumpy because we work so hard on casting and we care so much about what we're doing that felt like a waste of time. And yes, I've never forgotten this person's name, but not in a good way.
Okay.
You know, so like even if I don't know, and I've heard, you know, I've been in so many like casting rooms or with coaches and stuff like that, and nobody in audiobooks, but some commercial guys used to say, oh yeah, even if it's wrong for you, still audition because it may, you know, pique their ear and they might want to hire you for something else. I wouldn't say that's necessarily the case for what we do, because we are looking for such a specific voice or character.
Right.
And we are getting so many auditions, and it just felt like a waste of time, and it made me grumpy, and I still grump about it sometimes. So
I'm going to use
that more than anything will make me go, oh, I probably don't want to work with this person.
I am going to use a different pseudonym next time, okay? So that you will get to start over with someone that doesn't fit whatever you're asking. Johnny.
I was kind of connected to Don's question. When you put some, because I go on Ahab a lot, and I'll be honest, sometimes what's on my Ahab screen, you know, auditions that they, you know, curated for me are like, you know, 17-year-old Kenyan girls. And I'm like, well, that's weird. I get it all the time. But when I do audition for things that are right for me, and I don't audition for those. I don't know how many. I'm curious how many auditions. Let's say it's an audition for a Midwest, middle-aged American male. You know, so which is, you know, so how many auditions do you get, and do you listen to all of them? I mean, do you get hundreds or 50s?
Oh, hundreds. It depends on how long I keep it up. I'll keep it up for, you know, a day or two, and I can get anywhere from 200 to, I think once I left it up for longer than that because it was like a weekend or a holiday or something. I got 500 auditions.
Did you listen
and
to
I
500?
will say, huh?
Did you listen to 500?
I listen to at least the first couple seconds of each one just to see, especially if it's somebody I don't know, you know, because I'm like, if I get an audition for you, I'm like, oh, I know Johnny. Okay, I'm gonna listen to this, and not forget it. No, I'm gonna listen to it. But usually, because I know you, Johnny, I know your work, so I'm like, okay, he's definitely somebody that I can consider for this because he fits the specs, and also I know how he works, and he, you know, like, I know that like if he were to get the book, that it's gonna come out fine and great, and it's going to be an easy process unless he's unavailable or he turns into a total diva.
Yeah. Well,
I'm waiting for that.
That happened a long time ago. But,
yeah.
I have to go backwards. For people who don't know what Ahab is, can you please explain that? And then I want to join. I want to send you something on Ahab. I don't know what it is, but I want you to explain it, and then I want to do it. How do I get into it? What is it? No, go ahead. Please explain Ahab.
Well, Ahab is PRH's casting platform, and it's actually been opened up so other content creators can use it. So we have other publishers on there, other producers. You can put your commercial reel up there. I know podcast people use it as well. I don't think we actually know who all is on there, but we've opened it up to other content creators. So, and it's free. So it's free for you to join. I'm trying to hold on.
Well, could somebody throw Ahab the URL in the comments there if they
Yeah.
It's ahabtalent.com.
Right,
I don't know how to. ahabtalent.com is what it is.
Oh, I can do that. Instead of me assigning work to other people.
Video.
Yeah. I don't know how to.
Okay, so assuming I get this right, people should be able to go that's no space.
Yeah, there it is.
Did you get it? Okay, good. Okay, cool.
ahabtalent.com, yeah.
So you have to go online. You have to sign up. You have to, create a
kind of a profile type thing.
Create a profile.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I can go on randomly and I'm sorry, I don't mean to be rude and over talk you. I can go on it just to and put my stuff up, even if there isn't something that. So Johnny implied that he got someone asking him to put something on there. So is there more than one way that it's used?
No. So you can go. So how it works is it works in two different ways. So you go up there, you put your profile up with. You have to have at least 3 samples, I believe, in order to be able to properly sign up and for content creators like myself to see you. So once you do that, these content creators or the PRH producers, let's simplify this. The producers will be able to click through and see what you're about, see your profile, listen to your samples. And then the other option is that we can post auditions on there, and there are open call auditions, which anybody can audition for. Unless it says in the spec otherwise. An open audition is usually maybe we're trying to find the right voice. We don't have a cast list in mind. So, or we're looking for something specific and maybe there's somebody out there who we just don't know yet, or it is anybody could read this and let's see who can do it. And then the other option is there are private auditions where we limit the number. We do ask a specific group of people to audition. So that may be closed off to all viewers except the people who are invited to do it.
Great.
You'll generally, when you set it up, you'll get an email. If it's an audition they want you for, you'll generally get an email saying you've been invited by whatever the producer's name, Iris McElroy, to audition for this. You go to Ahab and you look, and there's the specs. And even then, as Iris said, if you're not right, and even if you're not right for the right dates, I said a number of times, you have to be an answer to publishers' problems, not an additional problem. So if Iris says, Johnny, I want you to audition for this, and it's you have to do it October 16th to 19th, and I'm in New England, I can't go. Then I have to I'll just tell her and let her know. And when you put the profile you put up, it's fairly similar to the ACX type of profile in terms of what it does. But anything you put up there, if you say it'll ask accents, it'll ask things you can do and special things. They want to know if you happen to be particularly good at making kites, anything that seems odd to you. You just don't know what an author may write about, and if you have those little side things, they becomes of interest. And if you say you can do accents that you can't do, don't say you can do them. That's
yes, thank you.
Yeah,
that's a good point. Yeah, don't say that you can do something when you can't. And on the other hand too, if you list a bunch of accents, have that reflect in your samples. Yeah, even if it's a short little sample of you only doing an Irish accent or whatever it is, we want to be able to hear that, because we're casting so many titles, we can't always hold auditions. We don't always have time for that. So sometimes we just need to pick someone, that we know we can do a certain accent. Yeah. Got a question?
Yeah, there's some. Yeah, let's highlight these. Can you see that, Iris?
Do you see that?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
So when you have an open
So
call audition and they send their file, do you also check their profile for more information? And
yeah, sometimes especially if the audition really catches my ear, I also tend to, we as producers, we can create like list of people, or, we can create like a whole list of casting lists. We just can utilize it in that way. So there are times when I'll save, like if the person's not quite right for what I'm looking for, but I do know I want to work with them later, I have a whole list for that. Sorry, I'm gonna mute myself for a minute.
yeah,
Hey, Don, there's a
Like Grand Central Station in here.
there's a let me see. There's a question from Rebecca. Are there, I can't read it. Are there any genres you want to see or hear more of, samples of on Ahab? Oh, there's genres that you prefer to see more than others in terms of the samples, Rebecca asks.
okay, hold on. Let me unmute. Go ahead now.
Yeah, there it is.
So
Yeah.
this one.
Sorry, my dogs are losing their mind right
How many
now.
dogs do you have?
I have two.
Ah, so do I.
Hold
But
on. I'm so sorry. Can you guys hold on for a minute? I think I just need to like make whoever's calling go away. Hold on.
That's fine.
We'll talk about Iris.
Yeah, I just muted her for a second.
Okay. Listen, let me. I can answer some of these.
Okay.
I can't answer the Rebecca specific one. What genres do you want?
Well, here, Johnny, I have a question. Here's
Yeah.
a question that comes in that'd be perfect for you. How can a person tell what age their voice sounds like? I'm a senior, but I don't know if I should limit myself to senior parts.
If you really, really don't know, and I find that next to impossible to believe, then you can ask people you care about. What age do I sound like to you? Yeah, and ask them what you said. Well, when you like, I know how old I am in real life, and I know exactly what I sound like. The reason I don't do erotica is because I sound like this. So I think that you know more than you think what you sound like. If you sound like an older guy, a little scratchy, that kind of sound, maybe senior voices are where you need to live. That doesn't mean that there aren't a bunch of things to do.
Mm-hmm.
There's people always say, I don't know if there's enough books out there. There's more books than there are us. There's more ideas. Everybody's got a word processing software somewhere, and they put a book out. There's everything. So you don't have to think that there isn't, no matter what and it's not the quality or tone of your voice, it's your ability to act. But if you come across as a senior or a juvenile or anywhere in there, or you can do the 11-year-old Asian kid, I think you know that. And if you don't know, you need to really investigate and ask people what they think of your voice and what it sounds like to them, because you need to tell Iris and her colleagues what you think you can do. You can't. Don't make them determine. If Iris hears my voice, she may say, "Oh my God," or Don's voice goes, "God, he'd be great in this book I've got to cast." But it's easier for her if I say, "Here's the kind of stuff I'm interested in doing, and here's the age range I see myself," because then she's not going to think of me as the 11-year-old Asian kid, nor should she.
Yeah, she's going to think of me as an old guy with a juvenile attitude. So
you have, by the way, you, Don, have a much nicer sound than you're aware of. Where is that question I wanted to find out?
Which one?
Oh, I think it was Rebecca way back.
Oh, she asked about, I was gonna come back to that.
Yeah.
She asked about am I interested in seeing a certain specific type of audition on Ahab? I would say that's very specific to you as a narrator. Are there certain genres? I just think that you as a narrator need to curate that for yourself. So if curate that to the genres that you find yourself being cast in, and that are in your wheelhouse, and that you can knock out of the park. And then also put some samples up of things that you really want to do. So if you really want to start doing mystery books, put those samples on there. And then also, if you have any connections with any producers anywhere, just say, I'm really interested in working in this genre more, and send those samples out. This is what I've been working on with Johnny Heller or Paul Rubin or whoever. This is what we did. I feel very good about this. So I think that's really important. And also, again, we're not just hiring you because of your voice. We're hiring you for what you can do and what else you're bringing to the table. Like, if you know that you are, for example, I love the narrator, Adam Werner. And I love him so much because he just brings a sincerity to his reads. Like, he's naturally sincere. And there's just something that's like so calming and like kind about his read that I find him very easy to cast for certain types of titles. So, if you even got something like that about your voice that or somebody has told you, put that up there too,
He's
And then
wonderful.
I would
think
also
he's
say
great.
too, like, constantly change your samples, constantly be changing, because you as a narrator are never going to stay sounding the same. Especially if you're working consistently, you're going to constantly be growing in this, and you're going to be constantly improving. So if I go to your Ahab profile and I see that your samples are from 10 years ago, I'm going to go, or even like 2 years ago, I'm probably going to go, okay, well, but what's what are they doing now? And that's when I go to Audible and see what you're booking.
I agree. Adam Werner is wonderful. He did one of my favorite books, I can't remember, Lincoln's Last Case before he became the president. It was Adams. He's a really I really like his work. He does it. It's just nice.
Yeah.
I can't read these. They're so fast. Can you talk about the Penguin Random House mentorship? Oh, the mentorship program. That's a great question. Can you talk about the mentorship program? Do you know much about it?
Yeah, we're all involved in it. All of us producers are involved. It's so currently, you said you just submitted a sample and application. I'm part of the committee. We're reviewing samples and applications right now, and we're looking at two different. Just to let you know, we're looking at we're at your sample and what you're bringing to the table with that, but we're also looking at your application to see how serious you are about this, because it's a 6-month program, and you can meet as much or as little with the producer you're paired up with, but it's work and it's commitment. What else would you like to know about it? I don't know. It's a wonderful program that we've started doing. I feel like it's very similar. It might be similar to what the APA is doing with their mentorship program, where each producer is partnered up with a narrator, a prospective narrator. And then, through the course of 6 months, we work with you on whatever you need. Sometimes it's a brand new narrator who needs to find their way into the business and needs to create a demo. Sometimes it's the kind of middle of the road narrators who are in the middle of their career and they need to elevate in some way and need new samples. Like, we have different people coming to the table with this. But either way, you're getting something out of it, because you're getting information from a producer, you're getting consistent feedback, and at the end you have brand new samples to
how do people
put up on your Ahab.
how do actors sign up for it? And is there a limit? Let's say Johnny Hiller's not going to sign up to be mentored by you because I've got 1,000 books. Is there a number of books that one should or not? How far along in your career, how early in your career can you and how do you sign up?
What, to be
mentored?
Mentee?
To be mentored.
To be mentored?
Yeah.
It could be you could be anywhere in your career.
Really?
Yeah.
And are the Patricia asks, are you open to new mentor? The mentors just the publishers? Producer?
I think this is specifically just PRH. You will a PRH producer will be a mentor to the mentee. That's a really interesting question, though, because there's a lot of popularity. It's gained a lot of popularity. It's a lot. It's, like, we wish we could bring on more people to mentor, but we can't. We're limited to the number of producers there are. So that might be an interesting question for Kelly, who runs it. I can ask her, but I'm not sure how that would look or work or whatever. We're also kind of doing it too from a very PRH centered mindset.
How does someone sign up? How do I sign up if I want?
That's a good question. I mean, it was posted. I think we posted on social media, Instagram, and all that. I will say that the applications for this next go around of mentorship is closed. So it will be posted again at the end of next summer, 2024. And we do it January.
It was on Instagram, and I know it's out on Facebook. So social media, just
social media.
Everybody, other publishers are on social media. I'd advise you not to get involved in all the X nonsense, but you can follow publishers and see what they put out there, and it's important to do so.
Yeah.
By the way, just since I happen to be an admin in about there's 25,000 narrators in the different groups that I admin, and I'm almost always the gatekeeper that approves people coming into the groups that require approval. And so I see people joining from these different places, and then I realize, a month or three later, well, they've never, quote, contributed anything. So what are they doing? They're lurking and being smart and strategic about it. What they don't want is they don't know anything about me. I put in a sample, and they kind of think, well, maybe that's not too bad. Pretend you were on the fence about it, and it could be. And then on social media, I'm ripping I'm being rude to a bunch of people on social media. Well, that's a little factor that they kind of go, I'm not working with Baarns. He's an idiot. They wouldn't say that directly, but right, wrong.
I was gonna say, yeah, like that's the other thing that will get me to not hire you really quickly if I hear that, like, oh, this person was. I mean, Johnny, what was that thing you said about problems? You want to be a solution,
I want to solve problems, not create problems.
Yeah. So if you create a lot of problems or you're just kind of a jerk, then that's not really somebody I want to work with. Like, I like building a really collaborative team. We're all working together to create a audiobook here. So it's me, it's the director, it's the narrator. Like, I give you the pieces to the puzzle, and then it's your guys' job to put it all together. Like, I want it to be an open flow of communication and, an easy, enjoyable experience, as easy as possible. Like, sometimes this work is not easy, but as enjoyable as possible. We're making audiobooks. There should be an element of joy and fun to it, And if you're the person making it not fun, then or enjoyable or joyous, then it's time to go. And that goes the same for directors too. Like, it's everybody that, we like to hire and bring on the table. And it's not just social media that producers see it. Producers, we all talk to each other too. So if you're rude to somebody, and that goes for engineers too. Like, I used to be an engineer, so
yeah,
don't love it when I hear that, oh, hey, this narrator was a jerk to me, Yeah.
And I assume you even talk cross companies, because you've been at two big houses, and then it's a small community, so you end up knowing people in the other places, and sometimes I know some who have reached out to somebody at another. Hey, do you know somebody who could help with this? Because they know someday they might get stuck, and having a relationship, and there's so many people that.
Yeah, and there's been so many crossover, like Karen Jaconski used to be at Harper, and then Penguin, and before all that she was at Random House, before it was CRH. So there's been a lot of crossover with all of us producers. We know each other, we like each other, we do talk and share information, and like, hey, do you have any like casting suggestions or contact information or studio information?
When you mention that people talk, when people are actors working with engineers or proofers even, a lot of times you have to understand, the actor needs to understand that the proofers that Penguin Random House uses, or that Macmillan uses, or anybody uses, work for them. There's a relationship with them. So it doesn't happen as much with engineers, because that's generally one-on-one in the booth, so it's not as negative. But proofers catch a lot of shit from actors, because the actors don't like to be, second guessed, even though you did say it wrong. And you have to be very, 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 very careful how you treat people who work with the publishers, because when you think about it, if Iris has a proofer that she could be a great friend of, and they say, what a jerk Johnny Heller is, here's what he said to me or something. You just, again, it's not just good manners, it's smart business not to become an enemy of someone who's a friend of a publisher you want to be close to.
Yeah.
And it happens all the time.
But that's not to say that you have to be a pushover either.
No,
I mean,
you gotta be yourself.
It's like, because, the proofers aren't always right either. Like, the QC is so interesting because they have a very specific job, and we want them, and we want them to do a good job with it, but they're listening for word perfect. So they're not always, they don't always have the information from the director's script. They don't always know, like, they don't always quite understand, like, character choices or whatever, and that's what the producer's here for, to kind of make decisions about what the proofers are catching. But if you get QC notes that you don't necessarily like, that may affect like the story that you were trying to tell, or the tone you were trying to go for, the character you were trying to go for, or like the proofers aren't always correct with pronunciations either, especially if it's some colloquial town name or accent or whatever. Like, you as the narrator are allowed to say to the producer and director, like, hey, I'm not sure if I agree with this. I will do it if you want me to, but this is why I read it this way. You're allowed to speak up. And in fact, me personally, I can't speak for all the producers, but me personally, I want to hear that,
So
and I want you to be able to say, yeah.
So I'm gonna paraphrase you. It's as much how you say it. I thought your statement was excellent. Hey, listen, you have the final call on this. I'll do it. I'm happy to do it the way you want it. I made this acting choice. Heller decided that this character might be a little rougher and contracted something, but I did it because I wanted the feel, and that fits that. I mean, so you would want him, please correct me if I'm wrong, you want him to give his point of view as to why he made that artistic choice, and then give you the option of saying, but if you would prefer it this way, I will go the other direction because that's what you need.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think a lot of producers feel very similarly, because we want it to be creative and, have a certain sound to it. We don't want it to sound like a robot is reading it. Right. So,
takes me out.
We want, not to open up that can of worms. But yeah, we want it to be a conversation. But that being said, it's also a good idea, especially if you're not working with the director and you're working with a producer directly, or like an outside producer like a JMM or Dion, and you're self-recording or something, it's a good idea for you to say, hey, I have these accents, or I am reading this, if it's a Black author and you're a Black narrator and you're saying, I'm reading in an AAVE dialect, like, it's a good idea to say, like, this is on purpose, like, maybe don't, just to alert the editors and the proofers that this is a very specific choice. So they're not thinking that something's wrong, They're
not thinking, I just didn't know, I was ignorant. I actually made an artistic choice, and I'm letting you know up front to hopefully give you the opportunity.
Yeah. Or like, it's a there's a lot of dialogue here, so I dropped a lot of the ends of my words because that's how people talk.
Right.
When I do when Blackstone does retakes, they send you the retakes and they want a long file. And what they do is they give you here's the screw up, and they want you, what they did originally they gave a space after the screw up to fix it. But I never do that. I just listen, and I just do a whole tape. And if I listen to somebody, I go, and I'll comment. I go, come on, that's not a mistake. That's exactly all right. I'll do it for you, but that's crazy. And so because I think it's more fun for the proofer, because it's like a conversation. It's one-sided. And I'll go, and like I'll say, all right, that's a mistake. I completely screwed that up. You're right.
Yeah, but you're Johnny Heller. You can do things like that. Like, a lot of these new people may not feel comfortable being like, that's nuts. And, they've never worked with Blackstone before.
Well, I remember once somebody had me, I had some streets in Chicago, though. I mean, they said I pronounced them wrong. And there were 3 streets. I can't remember, but I'd lived on each street because I'm from there.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm sorry, I can't. I said, I could do it your way, but my name's on the book, and that's just wrong. It's just, it's not,
well, and you're allowed to do that because the proofer may be from Texas. They don't know.
Oh yeah, well, remember the big Paul Hayes thing when it was on Facebook forever? He said Houston Street in New York.
Yeah,
and it was like, it was worse than dinosaur porn for a while on social media. It just blew up.
How is it pronounced, Johnny?
What, Houston?
Yeah.
Houston's pronounced Houston, unless you're Sam Houston.
Yeah.
Okay, I said so most of us aren't from there, so we don't know. We would see the word.
Oh,
And,
see that's a good point.
yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
the thing
Is it
is that I
Smith
would
or
get it
Smythe?
wrong
Yeah.
if it looked like Houston to me, and I see it. There's a place in northern Michigan called Mackinac Island. It's it's written as Mackinac. It's an Indian word.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
And only people that know this place know it's really has been pronounced for centuries Mackinac Island.
Like Cairo, Illinois.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
So-
I mean, when
Or
you
it's like every town outside of Boston.
Yeah.
Those names are wild.
I do recommend if it looks, this has to be how they say it. Just double check. You can look at it. I mean, there is a Google, and there's also, I call libraries in towns all the time.
Yeah.
I just call libraries.
That's a good one.
I say I'm a narrator, and they're great, and they're happy to chat. And I say I got to pronounce these names. How do you say it? Now, it's conceivable that the person at the library doesn't know or doesn't say it right and is sure they're right, or has a speech impediment. But at least you're doing your part to research a little bit. Yeah.
So what
Oh,
I
I
want
saw
to
that.
find out is if people send something into you, or they post something on Ahab, they don't hear anything back for a day and a half. Should they panic and start sending you personal messages asking what's happening with my audition and why haven't you responded and listened to it? And sent
After
me
a day and a half, probably not.
no, what should they expect? So I'm brand new. I put up my new thing and I don't hear anything
Yeah.
back. Do I wait 2 months and refresh? I refresh it after a month. I mean, so pretend I just don't get anything back. I put something up. What's my next step?
So again, like it depends on the producer. A lot of producers are really busy. We've got a lot of titles like this. So what I personally try to do is I will always try to say thanks when I receive a audition, or thanks sounds great. Sometimes I ask for a second audition, or like an adjustment. And then, you got to think of the timeline. So the audition's up for 2 or 3 days. Once the audition window is closed, that's when we take a day or two, maybe longer, depending on how many auditions there are or what our schedule looks like. Maybe, let's say, anywhere from 2 days to a week to listen through ourselves, because we have to cut those auditions down to share with the author. And then we give the author an additional week to listen through. So like we're already looking at 2 to 3 weeks here since you've auditioned before we've even made a decision. So yeah, like maybe a month if you'll hear something back, or, well, I mean, what I always try to do is say, hey, thank you for the audition. We've made a decision. Looking forward to working with you in the future. I always try to send something like that, but I, again, don't always have time to do so. Ahab is, not a perfect platform, so I have to copy and paste that message into every person who's auditioned. So if you don't hear anything back after a month and a half, then maybe you didn't get it, but that's okay. Like you gotta just keep auditioning. That's kind of part of the process, and it doesn't mean that the audition wasn't good or you're not good. It just means that you, for whatever reason, were not right for their book, or you weren't the voice that the author had in their head. And then half the time, like I said, I will go, oh, who might be good for this person who also auditioned for this last book. I'm going to bring them on for casting for this one, or I'm going to say this person's voice, this person's profile, because I really enjoyed their audition or our interaction or whatever.
So we have a question here about how long should the demos be, and how should they slate them? You want upfront for me to give you my complete resume starting from the time I was in high school, and then no, what?
I personally don't even want a slate. I don't even want a title. Don't even say this is from this book. I want it to be right into the demo. It should be about a minute or two long. It should start really strong in the first 5 to 30 seconds, because I'm telling you, a lot of producers will listen and go, nope, not right, and then keep it moving. They'll just it'll catch their ear, immediately if this is the right voice for whatever they're looking for. I typically only listen further if I know voice, and then I'll go, yeah, okay, great. This is an audition I can send to somebody.
So
So, and again, whatever it's for, like whatever you're going for in the demo, if it's mystery thriller, make sure there's some mystery in the sample. Do not take it from chapter 1. That's all the setup. You need the spooky shit, so make sure the samples match the what you're going for with it.
If you're doing male-female dialogue, then don't do the narrative into the dialogue. Bang, start the dialogue, because that's how much time they have to in terms of how long any demo should be.
Yeah.
Any producer will say a little different, but since they're not going to listen beyond perhaps some seconds, you don't need a 5-minute demo. It just doesn't make sense. I always say 1.5 to 3.5 minutes is as long as you need to be on any demo.
Okay.
Would you agree with that?
Is there? I do. Since I haven't seen, does Ahab give you a place for me to put notes that I say this is my Boston senior character, and then
I think there's like I don't quite know on your end how it's set up. Like if you have to label the file name, Johnny.
You label the file name.
Okay.
You label.
In other words, if you say, let's say I say thriller / male-female / Boston accent. Mm-hmm. So you try and identify the demo, because if I were saying, can Johnny do a Boston accent? Now, obviously she can just call me because we're friends. But if she wants to know, I may not have it. I may not have my Sanskrit dial. I may not have everything I can do, but I might have a Boston accent available. And if I do, I want to label it so it stands out from my little kid book or whatever the hell it is.
Mm-hmm.
You try to identify your demos by what you're demonstrating. That way they can find it right away.
Yeah.
See, no, previous edition.
If you look at narrators, previous audition.
We're reading. It says, I like this. This is great. We're reading and responding.
Yeah. So one of the questions is, do you look at the previous auditions in addition to the profiles and samples? So.
Yeah, I do. Sometimes I'll, somebody else asked this before too. Like if I listen through other audition samples or after I get an audition. I mean, typically I use Ahab as a tool, so as I am going through names and voices and samples, I'll also go to Audible and I'll start saying, okay, what are they doing? What do they have listed here? Because if the sample if I can't quite find the sample on Ahab, I'll see if maybe Audible has something, or I see what you've done recently,
Okay. So and I have a question about that hasn't come up yet. So you get down to a couple potential people. Do you care at all if they have a social media following? Like, I mean, casting Johnny Heller has to be a win for you in some respects, other than his personality. But I mean, no, but in some respects, somebody who has a brand name out there in terms of is known, does that make any difference? Yes, no?
I'm really curious to know what other producers say about this. Me personally, I don't really care. Sometimes the author will care, but typically if the author cares about it, they already know who they want because of social media like TikTok or whatnot. So that's happened before, but me personally, when I'm casting, I don't always care about the social media aspect.
Cool.
So
okay.
Yeah.
If I can, I just got a book that's coming up. I'm doing it in November, I believe, and it's Simon Schuster, and it's kind of a knock on Kamala Harris. It's not a positive piece. And when they asked me about it, and I said, well, I want to be honest with you because I haven't worked, for this author or these people. And I said, I'll be honest. I said, just so you know that my social media presence is kind of the opposite. I'm kind of a bleeding heart, liberal lefty pinko commie. So I said, and I'm really out there about that. I'm really out there in terms of my politics. And they said the author wants me to do this.
Okay.
And so I haven't seen the book, and I said, it's not. I mean, he's a known person, and it's not. And I don't think but I've done so many right-wing books before they found out, before social media was big. And
Uh-huh.
then they found out what it was, and I lost those gigs. Now I'm doing left-wing books. But, but, but I thought, how this is interesting to me because they want me to do this. 'Cause I think it's allegedly humorous, even though it's negative toward Harris, who I have no negative thoughts about personally. And then I thought, you
Yeah.
know what? That's what acting's about. Like if I do a cigarette commercial, I actually don't smoke. I'm not sure that I like McDonald's hamburgers, but if you want to hire me for it, hell yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I think everyone's got to separate it, but I do think your social media presence, you are younger actors or newer, not young, newer actors maybe need to be a little more careful about where you are and what you say on the social media things, because that lives forever.
Yeah.
And it
Mhm.
can have a negative impact on the work you can and can't get. Not that you should or shouldn't, but think about it. That's
Right.
all. Just think about it. You have to do what's right for you, but it's worth thinking about.
Yeah.
Right.
I know.
But the whole thing about social media too is like you are showing a snapshot of your life and like kind of what you're about and what your vibe is. And even though there's a sheen to it, like people still want to see authenticity on that. So if you're not comfortable with the social media part, and you're trying to force yourself to do a video or whatever because you think that's what you need to do, it's not going to come off authentic. And I don't think it's just going to stress you out, and it's probably not going to get the effect that you want. So I would say
Yeah.
don't do it. No, Banjo. I don't think lack of social media may be your downfall.
I don't
Like,
think so.
but that's not to say like you still have to, this is a people business, as Don said yesterday. Like you still have to figure out a way to connect to people, like social media is a way of doing that. Like I always invite narrators to connect with me on Instagram because I like to scroll just like every other millennial, and I like to see what's going on with people. Do not talk to me about work on Instagram. I want to see your dogs. I want to see your cats and dogs. But I do like to, but it does have this effect where, I'll scroll through and I'll see faces and names like, oh, I haven't worked with this person in a while, or oh, like maybe we should get coffee or something, So you do have to figure out a way to connect in some way, and whether it's by like doing things like this or, joining the APA and going to their socials or being involved in somehow, or going to APAC or whatever, they're finding the other narrators in your community and having drinks every once in a while. Like it's important. That part's important.
How would you feel about somebody if you saw
Don, I
them
can't hear you.
You can hear me or can't hear me? Johnny, you hearing me?
Uh-oh.
I hear you.
Okay.
Can you not hear
And
Don?
on the street,
Oh, weird. Something. It was my
Are we back?
fault. Sorry.
So-
Comedy of
Yeah, I'll
errors.
tell you, I can't see any of the questions anymore. They're all blurred. On the other hand, no, I still can't see them.
okay. Well, I'll
Just so you know, you tell us.
Okay. So we're talking about social media. So one of the questions I'd have is if so I'm doing Instagram and I say Paris is a rear end and you love her. I mean, isn't that going to so I avoid all that stuff, by the way, just for whatever it's worth. I've never put a single political post up. I don't put a religious post up. I just leave all that stuff alone. That's just a personal thing. But I do know, so Johnny's going to win some and lose some, but he's also established. So I do think I would differentiate. If somebody isn't relatively unknown, I certainly don't want to go, I hate dogs, knowing that most people like dogs. I'm not going to, I try to avoid all that stuff on my social media, and everyone has to pick and choose where they fall with it, but it sure seems to me that you're going to win some and lose some. So you really have to be careful about it, and you really have to feel strongly because it's going to cut both ways. Nothing's perfect.
Yeah.
You may get some.
I mean, but at the end of the day, like we're hiring you guys, so we can't judge you based on. I don't judge people based on their political preference in terms of this work. Like
Cool.
I don't. That's not something I'm gonna, as long as you don't come like storming into PRH and you're like, fuck all liberals, like keep it, whatever. We're gonna keep it to, this is, this is still, we got a job to do this business. So that's not something I'm necessarily going to look at. But if you start spilling a bunch of like hate speech on your social media, or you're like, tweeting out Johnny Heller sucks or something, that's when I'm going to go, oh, maybe not. Like whatever your religious or political preferences or gender identity, all of that is not my business, And in some aspects, actually, it could help you get hired. And that's, again, Ahab, like, share as much information as you feel comfortable with, because if I don't produce right-wing political books now, but when I was at Harper, I did. I had broadside. So it was a lot, and I don't agree with half the shit that I was producing because I am a bleeding heart liberal myself, but I was like, okay, these books still have to get done, and I have to find narrators who are comfortable, who either fall in line with this or who are at least comfortable narrating it under their name or a pseudonym.
Yeah.
So
my wife and I did some political spots, I don't know, 5 years ago for the opposite party, and we hemmed and hawed about it. And then we said, it's really dumb. First, you're an actor, and so we're going to do it, and we don't want anyone on the outside to know that we don't love this. We thought the copy was terrible, but we did it to the best of our abilities so that anybody listening would think. And then we said, we could take that money and donate it to our side because they're going to pay somebody to do it. But we also took it as an acting challenge to not have anybody in the audience understand that where we were, because we're irrelevant to it. That's our personal thing, and we were hired to do a job. We did it, and someone was going to earn the money off of that, and we made our. So anyway, we wanted people to think we were in that camp, because when we do the spot, when we do a book, we want it to be as authentic as it can be as an actor.
Yeah. But I mean, and that's the thing. If you disagree with what the book is saying, or if it makes you uncomfortable in any way, you don't have to take the job.
Right.
And you're not going to not be hired if you don't take the job because you don't connect to it, or you are uncomfortable doing it, or you don't feel good about it. We want you to say no to us in that aspect. Because we don't, at the end of the day, we don't want our book to sound like crap, and if you don't agree or you think it's stupid, that's going to come out in your read. You're allowed to turn down. Yes, you're allowed to do that, but you have to do it on the initial offer or on the audition. If you accept the book then you read it and it's a week before recording and then you say no, or even, that's causing us a problem because that means like so many people have signed off on it. It's in the metadata. It's on Audible at this point. Like, you got to say no, or you have to tell us right away too if you want to do it under a pseudonym. You can't wait for that.
When I said yes to the book about Kamala Harris, within 2 days, it's on Audible now, saying coming out in January. So they've already. I'm doing the book.
Yeah.
And I think Don made a great point. Is that look, your job as a narrator, is to tell the story. Your job is not to editorialize.
Yeah.
Right.
If you don't want it, if you're not comfortable, you don't want to do it. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Simple as that. No actor has. The days are gone when somebody say, "Hey, I've got a barn. Let's put on a show. Give me $50. I'll put you in the cast." You don't have to do that.
That's how
if
I
you
got
don't
this
want
show.
to do the job, don't do the job. And as Ira said, it's easier for her to know that Johnny doesn't want to do any work that involves, non-consensual animal sex. It's just it's something I feel strongly
He's
about.
just for the consensual stuff.
Yeah, consent. Yeah, if the dog says okay, then okay. Speaking of which, I've got a really funny Instagram dog link. I'll send you later. It's hilarious.
You must have sent it to me. But one more point about that though, Johnny. You took this book and you're going to do it. And you're going to do a great job. But now, once it's out there, that may lead to more books like this. So. It happens a lot where you see it with romance a lot, where like a lot of women or female presenting narrators will get in doing romance and then will just get kind of stuck doing that. So they eventually have to say, I can't do this anymore, that will happen too. So you got to just think about that long term, and it may be fine for a while. And then you decide, okay, I'm not going to do romance anymore. I want to try something different. So,
And if they had a good working relationship with you because they did it to the max, even if they were uncomfortable with it for whatever reason, they accepted it, then they did it, and then you sent them some more, they do a few more, but then they have a relationship with you, and you know they're an above board person, and if they say, well, hey, I'll do another romance for you if you've got it, but I'm interested in this, and then of course then they also send you samples and try.
Yeah.
But now you have a relationship with somebody and a little bit of trust there because of prior workings. It seems to me that would be smart, plus an easy way to transition to something else.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I always say that audiobooks are a long game. So where you start is not going to be how you end this thing. You know, like you gotta, there is like a little bit of a process of cutting your teeth and figuring this whole thing out and getting better and finding your footing and all of it. How many more euphemisms can I have? I don't know, but there is a process to it, you know. So if romance is the thing that gets you in because it's in your wheelhouse and it gets you going for 2 years and 50 books, that's great. And then you start pivoting and you start building off of what you already have. So
I have a question. How do you feel about people that did a bunch of ACX royalty shares as to build their portfolio? If I presented to you, I have 35 books on ACX and none of them were through a major publisher. Does that change your opinion? Do you care if they're great quality in terms of if they represent well?
it just gives me a lot of information. Like saying it's an ACX book, that tells me, oh, then you're probably comfortable recording at home, or you have some kind of home studio setup, or you're probably comfortable recording without a director. So like that just might open up what we can do together. Because PRH, we use directors primarily, but there are projects that we need somebody to self-record and self-direct with. And a lot of publishers, Harper, I know especially, uses home studio narrators with no director, you know? So that just tells me that you are already comfortable in that, with that aspect of it, you know?
Is that
As we're
important
about
to
to
you?
run out of time, Don, can you look at Jim Patton's last comment?
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. I'd like to handle that because we're running low on time. I'm going to get a couple of these out of the way.
Oh, yeah. Go for it. So Johnny, how confident are your samples on, how confidential are your samples on Ahab? For example, are there samples I would never put up on my website, but under a pseudonym would be okay?
I would say because we can download these samples on our end and share them. So like if you want to put samples up that are specifically read by your pseudonym, you need to have a separate profile name for your pseudonym.
Great, perfect.
And then
Yeah.
should they take them down after a certain amount of time, or leave them? I guess if it's a pseudonym, who cares, right? You just leave them up.
I mean, again, that's entirely up to you. Like, if it's under a pseudonym, then it's under a pseudonym, and we can kind of get a sense. Okay, this is why this would be a pseudonym, you know, because it's all like heavy erotica or right-wing books or whatever it may be, for whatever you're using a pseudonym for. So
and do I tell you my real name and is there a place in the profile that obviously you have to be able to get a hold of me, so how does that work?
That's up to you. I work with people who specifically want to keep their pseudonym so separate from their normal narration, so they have a separate email. They want you to address them as a pseudonym. I'm fine to curate it however you want, you know. So just be reachable. That's all I ask. Like, have some kind of contact information in your profile or website or whatever. So,
and I do want to. So, do you think directionally there will be a lot more home studio stuff coming into or do you think the mix will stay? Right now, you have many with a director. Where's it going from your point of view?
Well, right now I only like 10-12% of the books we produce are home studio, like we call them self-directed. Okay. But that's at PRH, and I don't know if that's going to change. I'm of the mindset that not every book necessarily needs a director. Not every narrator necessarily needs a director or wants to work with a director. So I think that I'm lucky at PRH because we have a lot of, different options of how we can make these books happen.
Great. Johnny, any final questions?
No, not really. I think Iris has really been just wonderful, very open and very honest and very communicative of a lot of interesting things that I think will be helpful. There is one thing that someone asked, and I think we should address it, is they want to know, could they get hold of you, or should they get hold of you on LinkedIn or anything like that, or just go
Yeah.
through yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, add me. My Instagram handle, I guess it's called,
You
is
said Instagram you don't
IAM.
want?
Huh?
You said Instagram you don't want to talk with.
Oh, I mean, you can connect with me on Instagram, but just don't talk to me about work. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn for
Okay,
business
can
stuff,
you
and
share
then
the LinkedIn handle or the Instagram handle?
yeah, you could do it in the chat if I can figure out. Well, I could just say it. My Instagram handle is IAM_audio.
I'm typing that in the chat. But
Thank
that's
you.
did you say that's Instagram?
That's Instagram. And then LinkedIn, it's my name, Iris McElroy. Yeah, and feel free you could absolutely email me. I do not always respond. But that's okay. I look at them and I save all narrator correspondence in its own separate folder, and I go to it every once in a while. I think a lot of producers do that. So
Okay, so if you don't respond to me, that's not. I take it personally and just
no, I don't hate you.
Okay. You hate me for other reasons. No.
Yeah.
So yeah, it makes sense that there's going to be, even after something like this, and these things live on for a long time. So people will be contacting you, but they have to understand, when you contact somebody, you're going to get in a given week 50 to 100 messages coming in, and you can't answer each one of them individually sometimes. But if they had something compelling, you're going to bookmark it, correct?
Yeah. Or sometimes, I will respond because, like you said, it is a compelling email, or it's something that, somebody addressed, like because we met in person or we talked about something in person and they brought it up again or had a question, or whatever. So that I'll respond to, but it's not always, like all you can do. Producers expect narrators to reach out. It's kind of part of the game. And they might get a little annoyed because of the amount of emails in their inbox, or, some producers prefer a certain type of email over another, but I just kind of expect it. It's kind of part of this whole business. So, but I can't always respond back. That's just not realistic for the amount of work that I have, but I'm paying attention. So,
okay, well, thank you for being on the show. And Johnny and I will be back. We're doing this regularly. Every once in a while, one of us will miss because there's things in life. I'm going to go to this stupid thing in New England. What do you call it, Johnny?
The New England Narrator Retreat. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's in a couple of weeks. So we will go dark one week because both of us are there. And every once in a while, one of us will miss because Johnny's got this stupid thing where he goes into PHR and records. And
Yeah,
every
so
once
next
in a
week
while,
I'm not there. Next week I'm at I'm at Penguin, not here.
So bottom line, we're doing this every Tuesday. Join us every Tuesday, same time, same station. We'll have the announcements out there. We're growing this. Every once in a while, we'll go dark because we're both at some event someplace. But other than that, we look forward to seeing you next Tuesday. And Johnny, give everybody a big wave. Any final word there?
Not for me. We're going to have Iris back, though, because I love Iris.
All right.
Yay,
Thank you for
this was
joining
fun.
us.
Thank you, guys.
We'll see you all later.
All right.
Have a great
Bye,
one.
all. Bye, Iris.
Bye.
Thanks so
Bye.
much. Thanks.